Hello everyone, welcome to the next video in my series of setting things up basically from scratch. This video is going to be about the supervisor. So the supervisor, unlike other devices, is pretty simple when it comes to peripherals. All you need is one advanced computer and an Ender modem, or if you don't have those, you could use wireless modems, just make sure things are close together. So to get started, it's going to be just like all the other devices. I'm going to paste in the pastebin download command from GitHub, run that, and then use cc-mek-scada to install Supervisor. And now to begin configuration, I'm just going to use the startup command because that'll auto-launch the configure command as covered in all the other configurator videos. Here, no configuration as expected. So configure the system. I have 2 reactors here, but I'm going to select 4 now just to demonstrate something. Go next, and we're going to say that all of these have emergency coolant tanks connected. This is also the page where you'll set how many turbines each reactor has and how many boilers each reactor has. So one important thing I want to note is that each reactor needs to have its own set of boilers and turbines, or in case of water-cooled, its own set of turbines. If you have, say, 2 boilers with 3 turbines connected across 3 reactors, then it's going to break all the math that are used for coolant checks, and the UI is not going to show what you expect. You'll see some devices offline. So just make sure that each reactor has its own coolant system that isn't shared with any other reactors. So I set all the units here to have a tank connection. The following screens won't be shown if you don't have any tank connections, but since I do, it's going to ask if I want to have facility dynamic tanks. This option, in short, just lets you use fewer than 4 tanks to cover 4 reactors, or say 1 tank to cover 2 reactors. So if you have 1 tank per unit, then just don't do this. You won't need any features that it offers. So here I can select which units have facility tanks and which have their own personal tanks. Here I can do stuff like this, so I can see these different modes. These blue lines are coolant connections from, say, Unit 2, which is the reactor, to Facility Tank 2, which would be a dynamic tank. So I would connect it so that these 3 all connected to a water output on this. In the future, there's going to be sodium coolant support, so you would connect sodium directly to a sodium-cooled reactor. For now, it expects you to use a dynamic tank of water to put water into the boiler to allow it to cool the superheated sodium, and then it dumps steam so that that can flow back and you can keep the system cooling. So each of these units is the reactor boiler, and over here is each tank you have. So this would be 2 tanks, this is 3 tanks, this is basically unit tanks, and all that stuff. If I go back here and I say some unit tanks, you can now see this is a 3 tank setup with a unit tank for unit number 2, and then 1 for unit number 3, and then a facility tank with ID 1. And that'll matter for your RTU configuration. Here are some extra details on that. But for now, we're going to go all the way back and remove the extra units that I don't have. So here's extended idling, and this extends the 15-second idle at 0.01 millibuckets per tick to a full minute. This would avoid flickering on and off of your reactors. The 15 seconds should prevent this on its own, but if you have very little power draw and you're on a charge target, maybe it'll go on and off a couple of times. So if you don't like that, then you can enable this, but generally probably don't need to do that. Then network options here. Supervisor has all the channels because it's like the central hub. Make sure anything with SVR channels, RTU channel, anywhere where you see this key, all the numbers need to be the same. So 16240 for SVR channel on every device that has an SVR channel needs to be 16240. So timeouts, trusted range, facility authentication key, and logging. I already covered this in the configurator videos, in the Reactor PLC video, so I'm not going to get into more of that here. Then color configuration, your little color themes, and then accessibility options. I'll go through these more for the coordinator video since it extensively uses a lot of indicators. Here, summary, I can see, oh, forgot to change this. So 0 boilers, 1 turbine. I actually have 1 boiler, so I can go back. Do that, and move back. And there we go. 1 boiler, 1 turbine, each has a tank connection. Looks good. And I can apply this, and we're all good. These are all the tabs you've got, so this is just main information, not a lot for the supervisor. And we have PLC tab, which shows our 2 reactor PLCs, which aren't currently connected. RTUs, as they connect, they'll show up in this list. Here's your coordinator, that'll show up here in your pocket computers as they connect here. So now I'm going to transition to talking about some networking issues that you might run into. In this case, we know that I already set up 2 reactor PLCs, so you'd expect them to link right away. But each one has its own little problem. One of them I broke intentionally, the other one is out of date. So let's go over here to the one I broke intentionally. So let's just check here. We can see configuration right here. We've got PLC channel 16241 and supervisor channel 16240. Since I know it's not connecting, I'm going to start by making sure my channels are correct. So, since I see the network light is gray, we're off. I'm gonna go configure system. I can see here that I set this to, that's not correct. It should be 16240. So upon saving that, I can move forward. We're gonna restart this up. Come back here, make sure the supervisor is also running. And now, we should see a green light. And we do, so now it's connected. I can see over here, PLC, link, computer ID 5, all that stuff. We can see a good round trip time. Except the other one's not here, so now let's see why the other one's not connecting. So now I see a yellow light. That's not good. So this means it's a network version mismatch. We can see that down here, 251. We know the other one's 3.0.0. So in this case, just gonna do a really simple step. cc-mek-scada update reactor PLC. And my installer's out of date, so I'll update that first. And we'll do that again. See this little message here? It says that the comms version changed, and the other device is already up to date. So this one's actually the one that's lagging behind. So I'll continue with this and move forward. Now that little message up there, I'm probably going to get rid of in the future. It's basically just saying that it can't download the files and then copy them in. It's going to have to download and replace each file one by one. Generally shouldn't be an issue. So theoretically that could corrupt an install. At that point you would just rerun the installation and you would be just fine. So I'm probably going to get rid of that warning in the future. Let's get this started. I can see network light green. So we know that we resolved that little communications protocol issue. And there, both of them are here, both up to date, looking good. So now let's just demonstrate something else. Something else you might run into that's kind of reactor PLC specific would be a collision. Let me demonstrate what that looks like. So we're going to enter that this is also unit 1, which it is not. And if we move forward with this, try to start up, get an orange network light. And with color accessibility enabled, you're going to see NT collision. So network is not linked because it's red, and network collision is lit up here red, which means that the version looks like it's good, but the PLC ID is colliding because we have 2 unit 1s, and you can't have 2 unit 1s, doesn't make any sense. It's going to have some really weird issues. So in the way you'd fix that with either the orange light or red light in color accessibility stuff on collision, we'd go back and I would change it to unit number 2. Apply that, start up, no collision, all set. This would go back to being green on a normal display. So there, no collision, and if you didn't have color accessibility enabled, then it would just be green. So for that prior example of a yellow network light, in this case you'd see NT version turn red for a network version issue. So one of the more challenging things to fix would be running into gray network lights or just all of them off in color accessibility. In that case, it could be a whole host of things. You might be using facility authentication keys, and one of the devices might just not have one, and so it won't connect. Or one of the devices might have it typed wrong, so then it won't connect. In that case, you're going to have to double check your spelling, double check that all of them have keys. Another possibility is your channels are wrong. Can't really detect that since it's just not going to get a response. It's the same as the other device being off. And those are basically all the common issues with connectivity. For that and other issues, you can check the little frequently asked questions part on the GitHub wiki. So that's it for the supervisor. I hope you learned a lot and are able to set up your own systems. The RTU and coordinator videos will be coming out soon. Thanks for watching.